Hey guys, welcome back to NY Sports MC. If you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Click the bell to get all the notifications when my videos come out. Please comment and like the videos as well. I love interacting with you guys. That's what really keeps me going here. And if you haven't already, if you are on Twitter, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at NY Sports MC. Again, just at NY Sports MC. So we're going to continue on with the AFC East positional rankings. It's coming out a little bit later this week. I was getting ready to do it yesterday until the whole Jamal Adams fiasco went down. Figured nobody really would want to watch that. Well, everybody's listening to the Jamal Adams news. So I know that's still going on, but I still got to keep my position groups going. So we're going to do the front seven today. I know we kind of went back and forth in the live chats whether this was going to be two separate videos or one. I figure with teams running multiple fronts and the Bills being more of a 4-3 team versus the rest of the teams being 3-4, it's a lot easier to just try to compare the front seven. It may make this video a longer video than normal, but trying to compare defensive lines when one runs a 3 front and one runs a 4 is a little more difficult because they're asked to do different things. So as a whole unit, obviously they're asked to do the same. They need to get after the passer. They need to stop the run, right? So I think that some of these groups are pretty close. The AFC East actually had 3 of the top 10 defenses last year. So solid defenses within the division. And the only one that wasn't a top defense was the Dolphins, and they improved quite a bit this offseason. So I think the top 2 teams, it was kind of easy for me to say that these were the top 2 teams. Which one was 1 versus which one was 2 was very, very difficult. And then 3 and 4 was kind of close, but the more I looked at it, I think I was leaning more one way. So let's start right at it. I have at number 4, probably if you looked at last year, would have been competing for one of the top spots in the division, but I have the New England Patriots. This unit lost 2 very, very key players at the end of last year in Collins and Van Noy. Van Noy was a huge piece on the edge, and Collins was a very, very big piece in the middle as well. With the Patriots, what I really saw as I was looking more and more into it, they just got a lot of young pieces that haven't really proven very much yet. You got Gaia at the defensive end with Dietrich Wise. They've played a little bit. Wise started 3 games last year, had a 68.8 Pro Football Focus. Gaia had a 71.3, only 3 sacks. And then, according to ESPN, they had Beau Allen as their starting nose tackle. Beau Allen has only started at most 8 games in a single season, so obviously not a lot of experience there. Never started a full season, so we're gonna have to see. That nose tackle is a premium position when it comes to stopping the run. They don't get all the stats in the world, but they do make a huge impact. If you can have that big guy in there that can really clog the middle, that can help your team dramatically. So we got to see if he can play the whole season, if he is going to be their starting nose tackle. Like I said, I'm not projecting depth charts. I'm just using ESPN's because that's the only one that I see a depth chart on right now. So the defensive line leaves a lot to be desired. I think they can be okay. I'm not going to say they're going to be one of the worst defensive lines in the league, but I don't really see any standout players there either. Then you look at the linebacker position. Chase Winovich, I think, had a pretty nice rookie season last year. He was more of a situational pass rusher, ended up with 5.5 sacks. Going to step more into that every down role this year, as I believe he might have started to towards the end of the year. I think he's got a lot of potential. I think he could be another one of those outside linebackers that can really give us troubles. I mean, you go down the list. It was Ninkovich for a long time. Then Van Noy was a real thorn in our sides. I can see Winovich being the next one. So I think Winovich should be a very good player. The inside linebacker position is one where it's kind of a wait and see. They have Jawan Bentley, who really hasn't played very much. He's a very young guy. Don't know much about him. It'll be interesting to see how he kind of steps in for Collins this year. And then Hightower was very, very good. He's kind of towards the back end of his career now. Had a 69.4 Pro Football Focus rate, so still very good. Probably not nearly as high as what he used to be a few years ago. And then at the other outside linebacker position, we have former Jet Brandon Copeland, who we know about Copeland. His Pro Football Focus was 58.6. I wouldn't go too much into his pro football. It's probably pretty accurate to where he's at. I'd say maybe a slight bit better. The thing with him is the versatility. I mean, he bounced around quite a bit for us. He was actually playing middle linebacker for us at one point because we had lost so many inside linebackers. But Copeland is just a nice piece. He's really good depth piece. Not a very good starting edge outside linebacker. He's more of a depth slash special teams guy. So him starting at the outside definitely not something that excites you that much. So I have the Patriots there at number 4. At number 3, I'm going to have the Miami Dolphins. Again, another 3-4 front here. Avery Moss started 8 games, I think, last year. So, again, a lot of what we've seen here is a lot of guys that are kind of going to be stepping into new roles now. Devin Godchaux, I don't know how to say that last name. He had 52 tackles last year as a nose tackle. That's very, very good. So that's a pretty decent piece for him there. And then Christian Wilkins, obviously he was a very high pick, had 2 sacks last year. Didn't really perform the way they thought he was going to. I still think he could be a very impactful player in this league. I know I believe he had some off the field issues or something. I feel like I remember hearing him for something. Not 100% on that, but I think Christian Wilkins, somebody can take a step up for them this year. As he does have a lot of potential and was drafted very highly. So we look at the linebacker position. You have Emmanuel Ogbah at outside linebacker, 70.1 Pro Football Focus grade, 6 sacks last year. So pretty good. It was a limited role with the Kansas City Chiefs last year. So he's going to move into a more prominent role with the Miami Dolphins now. Whenever somebody, and this is no matter what team, whenever somebody goes from a limited role to a more full-time role, it's always a wait and see on them because, yes, he had 6 sacks in a limited role. You can say, hey, this guy could be a double-digit sack guy, and he could very well be that, right? But what you also got to realize is that with more reps comes more film on you, right? So when you're in a limited role, you can kind of get away with, and I'm not saying that Ogbah is this. To be honest, I haven't watched enough film on him to really be able to say. But I'm just saying, in general, when you're this limited guy, you kind of get away with 1 or 2 moves, right? When you become more of an every down type of player, like I said, the film's going to be out there on you, and these teams are going to game plan against what are your strengths, and then it really has to see. And the people who strive to become great are the ones who can adapt and adjust. So we just don't know when the player has not been in that full-on starter mode. Then you got Raekwon McMillan and Jerome Baker as the inside linebackers. Raekwon McMillan had a 53 tackles, 63.9 Pro Football Focus grade. Jerome Baker was a tackling machine at 94 solo tackles last year, but had a horrendous PFF grade at 46.2. So I'm going to be honest, like scouting the defense and front 7 guys is not something, like I said, I'm a fan, I'm not a scout. So I had to contact my buddy over at Sunshine Sports Network and asked him, I just said, hey, man, can you tell me a little bit about Jerome Baker? His stats look really good, but his Pro Football Focus grade's horrible. He said, yeah, his grade is bad because the defense was horrible last year. He said he loves JB, strong leader, consistent, excellent speed, and really good in coverage. I think he'll be a superstar soon. So he thinks with the improved talent around him that Jerome Baker could make a leap. And I mean, hey, 94 tackles, I don't care what else you're doing. That's not something to sneeze at, right? You're in the action. You're making plays. That's got to count for something, right? You're making 94 tackles. That's a lot of tackles. And then Kyle Van Noy at the other outside linebacker, like I mentioned him when we were going through the Patriots. He was a real thorn in the Jets' side when he was there, so hopefully it doesn't continue with the Dolphins. Obviously, he has experience with the head coach as he came from the Patriots as well. 83.5 Pro Football Focus grade, the highest one in any of the front 7s here. Had 7 sacks last year as well. So Van Noy is a very, very solid player. He's probably the best player on that front 7, at least with the most experience and most proven track record on that defense. So the Dolphins have some potential with some young pieces there. But I don't think you can put it much higher as they don't really have a lot of people that have proven what they can do yet at this level. So that's why I have them at number 3. At the end of the year, could they be higher? Sure, they could be. But we'll have to see with some of these young pieces. So we're down to the Bills and the Jets. And this is really tough for me. I'm trying not to be a homer. I'm trying to look at this from an unbiased standpoint. So here's where I'm at. I think that if you're looking at the defensive lines, the Bills are better, or at least more proven. If you're looking at the front seven, if you look at the linebackers, I think we're better. Right? So now, I don't know much about the depth the Bills have, but I do know about the Jets' depth. And we are very, very deep in the front seven. And for that reason, I'm going to go with the Jets at number one. And I can see a lot of people getting upset. And if Bills fans came in here, they'd be very upset saying that the Bills were like the number 2 defense or number 3 defense last year for a reason, right? And they're a very good front seven. So if you argue with me, I mean, like I said, I can see your argument, right? I think it's very, very close. So let's get into it. The Bills, their defensive line, like I said, best defensive line in the division, without a doubt. You got Trent Murphy at the one defensive end spot, 74.2 Pro Football Focus grade, 5 sacks last year. The other one, you have Jerry Hughes, 72.4, 4 sacks for him. You got Starlo Tuilele and Ed Oliver on the inside, so they do run that 4-man front. Starlo Tuilele, 60 Pro Football Focus grade. Ed Oliver, 65.6, 6 sacks for Ed Oliver. He had a very good rookie season. I was very high on Ed Oliver coming out as well. But he got into some off-the-field issues, which is the same as Quinn Williams, which we'll get to him next when we go to the Jets. So we got to see what happens if he potentially misses games, just like Quinnen could potentially. But I really like this front four. It is a really, really solid unit. They have a lot of versatility in there. Very, very good. And I think Ed Oliver is going to continue to improve in the middle of that defense. So now you go to the linebackers. Matt Milano, I really liked him. He was a tackling machine for them. I believe he got hurt. He had 70 solo tackles, 65.3 Pro Football Focus grade. I think he's a really, really solid piece for them at that outside linebacker spot. But again, this is only 3 linebacker set, so it's not an outside linebacker of a 3-4, where he's not really actually good after the passer as much. You have Tremaine Edmonds in the middle, young player, becoming a leader of that defense, 60.6 Pro Football Focus grade, 86 solo tackles. He is a solid player as well. He's got nice range to him, like Tremaine Edmonds, but he's probably the 3rd best inside linebacker in this division. And that's not my bias. We're going to get to him in a second. I think the best and the second best are on the same team. They didn't play it all last year, really, but still they're coming back. AJ Klein came over. Hasn't really played that much either. His Pro Football Focus grade, 47.8. I think that was one of the things that kind of leaned me a little bit too. AJ Klein, we have to see what he can do. I think he's the biggest question mark out of any of the people starting on the front 7 between the Jets and the Bills. So like I said, if you got the Bills at first, I wouldn't really be mad at you. I wouldn't call you crazy. The Bills have a very, very good front 7, and that's without a doubt. So let's get into the Jets. I think – so this is where I kind of played a little bit with it. I don't think ESPN is very accurate when it comes to our depth chart, at least when it comes to the defensive line. I think there's going to be a lot of competition here. So let's start out with Henry Anderson. Henry Anderson had an awful year this past year. The year prior, he had a very good year, 74.3 Pro Football Focus grade. Had maybe like 6 sacks or so, if I remember correctly, 6 to 8 sacks, maybe 8. Had a very good year the year before. We gave him a new contract, didn't really play too well this year. I'm not sure if maybe he was banged up and we just didn't know too much about it. But behind him, 2 good players really, really showed themselves in very limited roles. So again, the same thing I said about Ogba. It is a limited role, so you kind of got to take it with a grain of salt. But Nathan Shepard, with an impressive 71.3 Pro Football Focus grade, 2 sacks, didn't really play that much in that kind of backup role. And Kyle Phillips, an undrafted guy this past year in his rookie season, got some opportunities, had a 66 Pro Football Focus grade with 4 sacks, in a very limited role as well. He kind of was playing a little bit more as Quinnen was kind of battling some of these injuries and different things like that, and not able to play a full slate of downs. But I really, really like the depth at this defensive end position for us. Then you obviously have Quinnen Williams, who's going to play that other defensive end, D tackle, they call it, spot. He had 3 sacks last year and a 67.4. So Quinnen Williams had, a down year, right? We thought he was going to make these explosive plays, these game-changing, wrecking plays, and he didn't, right? But you got to remember, I think he's set for a breakout year this year. First of all, go on any social media and try to look him up, right? I mean, this guy's been an animal in the weight room and working out, and he is just getting really, really shredded, getting into really, really good shape. That's the one thing I love about Quinnen Williams. His story with his mom and everything that happened, and he's just this fun-loving guy that works really hard, and you can tell he works really hard. Yes, he made a stupid mistake of bringing his registered gun into the airport and not having it secured properly. Hopefully, it's just a slap on the wrist. It seemed like an honest mistake. It wasn't loaded. It was registered to him. He was trying to get it back home, and he just didn't have it properly stored. So hopefully they look at that and they don't really too much about it, right? I'd say just give him a fine, but that's obviously my bias. I don't want him to get suspended. Last year, he had a lower leg injury, so that is huge when it comes to a defensive lineman, especially one like Quinnen Williams that was built on explosion and quickness. So when you're on that interior or anywhere in that defensive line, your power all comes from your legs, especially in the trenches. Like you're trying to fight, and it's all about the low man and driving. So if you can't drive off that leg, it's going to impact you. And I think Greg Williams did a good job of seeing that and utilizing Quinnen Williams to kind of occupy blockers, right? Take on and try to push into another guy to pick up a second blocker, to free up some of these other guys. Because he knew that Quinnen wasn't 100% and maybe couldn't get all the way back to the quarterback to complete the play, right? But this year he should be healthy. I'm expecting big things from Quinnen Williams, a big step forward for him this year. And I think that's really going to help this defensive line. And then at nose tackle, they had McClendon as the starting nose tackle. And I think that's more out of respect. McClendon is the veteran leader of this team. You see him a lot hyping the team up in the middle of a huddle before the game. I love that he's still on the team too, because he does bring that veteran presence. He doesn't let people get away with anything. He's going to be a hard worker, and he's going to show these kids the right way. But I see him more as a rotational piece at this point. I think last year was proven that Foley Fatukasi is the more dynamic player right now. He is young and really, really stepped up last year. Had an 81.5 Pro Football Focus grade. Was a beast when it came to run stuffing. And that's part of the thing, too, when I'm looking at the front seven of the Jets and how I'm ranking them, right? Yes, maybe we don't have the great edge rusher. Really, if you look at it, there's no elite edge rusher in this whole division. You can't argue any of these guys as being elite. Some of them are good, but none of them are elite, right? So if you look at it, we're the number 2 rushing defense, and actually the number 1 for a very good majority of the season. But we finished number 2 in rushing defense without C.J. Mosley and Avery Williamson, and with an injured or hurt Quinnen Williams the whole season. So you plug in 2 of the premier run-stuffing inside linebackers in the league back to the team that was already ranked number 2 in rush defense. And teams are going to have struggled mightily to run against us. They really are. So that gets us to the linebacker positions. The one outside linebacker position is one that, not really a big question mark. It's going to be a battle between Jabari Zuniga and Terrell Basham. Basham kind of was starting there at the end of last year. Didn't start the whole season. Played respectable, 73.1. He's not a pure edge. Zuniga is going to be the guy I can see more as the pass rushing. So I think these two are going to rotate in at the outside linebacker position. That's going to be our big question mark when it comes to this front seven is our outside linebackers. Jordan Jenkins, 66.9 Pro Football Focus rate, 8 sacks last year. So he would be the perfect complement to an elite edge rusher. If you had an elite edge rusher on the other side, Jenkins would be perfect. He's getting 8 sacks without that main guy. The other guy's there, he's still going to get his sacks, right? and he's a really good edge setter. So now you got the edge rusher and the edge setter. Unfortunately, we don't have that. Can Zuniga be it? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But I do like Jenkins. I think he's a very solid player. And then if you go to inside linebackers, like I said, I think these are the top two inside linebackers in the whole division. C.J. Mosley is an all-pro, and we saw how much of a game wrecker he was for 3 quarters against the Buffalo Bills when he was healthy. They could not do anything. Josh Allen seemed like he had no idea where Mosley was going to be on the field. I think he had a sack and an interception in that game, and we were holding the Bills to absolutely nothing on offense until Mosley went down. And since Mosley went down and Avery Williamson went down in the preseason, we had a rookie in there calling the plays, and it just didn't really go well for us at the end of that game. But C.J. Mosley is a stud. He's all over the field. He can drop in coverage. He can come up in the run. He can go sideline to sideline. C.J. Mosley is one of the best inside linebackers in the game. So getting him back on this team is going to be a huge bump to what was already a very good defense last year. Avery Williamson, the year prior, because he was out all of last year as well with an injury. The year prior, he was one of the top tacklers in the league. Very underrated, solid player. And I think he's going to have a big... I hope we keep him. At this point, we have extra money and we don't need it. I would keep Williamson. I think playing him next to Mosley would be something that I'd be really interested to see. I could also see them maybe moving somebody. I don't know who, Williamson or... Because we also have Peanut Anmusar, or however you say his name, from the Ravens as an inside linebacker as well. He had a very good year, not last year, the year before, playing next to C.J. Mosley. So obviously they have some chemistry there. He's a nice depth piece as well. So, like I said, for the fact that I think we have a lot of depth at these positions, I do have us number 1. It could be a little bit of my bias, as you know, the Bills have a very good front 7 as well. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Is it my jet bias? Can you guys see my argument for having us as the best front 7 in the division? And let me know. Next is the safeties, and that's the last one before we go to special teams. Safeties going to be interesting with this whole Jamal Adams. I'll have to rank it with him on our team and without it, I guess. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Look out for the notifications. I may or may not stream tomorrow night instead of Sunday. So I usually put it up earlier in the day so that you guys can tell. So just look out for that. We might go Saturday instead of Sunday, since Sunday is Father's Day. And I do plan on going to spend some time with my father. I don't want to be in a rush on the way back, especially with my 2 boys. Got to get them situated once we get home as well. So just look out. It's going to be Saturday or Sunday. I haven't decided yet. But if you haven't already, like I said, please subscribe to the channel. We'd love to have you at the live stream, so come check them out as well. And as always, Jet up.